Next up on the number one tee.
Well, hello and welcome back to your virtual tea time. My name is Tori and I am your host. Here's the thing. It's been a minute.
It's been too long.
Kim's already, you know what? She's so comfortable on the show that she just interrupts my introduction because she knows exactly what I'm going to say. And it is, where have you been, Kim? Why are you trying to hide from us and the Tea Time podcast?
It's you that's been very unprepared.
Well, you know, I did have to record a lot of episodes in December, and we just didn't get you out here, but I'm so grateful to have you back.
It's good to be back.
Kimberly Eaton, Hall of Famer, Colorado Hall of Famer, double-digit Senior Player of the Year. Does it ever get old, Kim? Or do you just want to keep accumulating the accolades?
Well, I would like to keep accumulating them, but the older you get, the harder it is.
Yeah. We have Peggy Gustafson. Okay, a little behind the scenes action, okay? So when I have a guest on that I struggle with last names, everyone. I just struggle with some in particular. And Peggy's last name, I want to put an L in so badly that I keep tripping up.
Yep. So
Gustafson, Peggy Gustafson.
there you go.
They're LPGA professional at Portobello, Aguila, and you summer at Anchorage Golf Club.
Yep. Anchorage Golf Course.
Anchorage Golf Course.
There's no country clubs in Alaska. We've got about 25 courses.
Wait, is that true? Is there no country clubs in Alaska?
Clubs. We've only got about a 4 to 5 month window to play.
Yeah, but that window, what are the hours like?
Tee times in the summer start at 5:30 and last tee times at 9:58. We get you off the course about 12:30 a.m.
Wow, that's incredible. And what is it like right now? How many hours a day light?
Oh, they probably have 5 hours of daylight.
Wow.
So the sun kind of comes up and goes down, and they're having record snowfall. They've had over 80 inches, so
I was going to say, I saw a picture.
Crazy.
There's a boatload of snow on the golf course.
Really? So last year, when all that snow and cold weather was hitting California and Colorado, it doesn't seem like that's the way this year. But you're saying in Alaska it is?
Yeah, it's the second snowiest winter on record.
Wow.
They call it Snowzilla.
Snowzilla.
They built the snow. Well, they built a snowman. He's Snowzilla, and he's 25 foot tall. And
How do you make a snowman that big?
I don't know. It took them like a week. Like they had equipment.
I was going to say, you're going to have a forklift or something.
And then they call it the snow apocalypse. And because of the 757 MAX fiasco, people are stuck that were supposed to be going on vacation.
What do you mean the 757
Oh, the
fiasco?
airplane that the door just blew off.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes, because that was Alaska Airlines.
Right. So they had brought a lot of those new planes in, so everything has to be rechecked. So it's a nightmare. You can't get out. I mean, I've got clients that were supposed to be here, and they can't get out.
Snowzilla and
They say
Alaska Airlines.
Yeah, Seattle's airports, just people are everywhere.
It's the worst.
So we're glad to be here.
Well, okay, so Kim just got back from a cruise, 10-day cruise. 11-day cruise. Kim loves a cruise. Now, before we get into this cruise, didn't you do an Alaska cruise once before?
Well, I've done 3 Alaskan cruises.
Really? So they're that good, you just keep going back.
Well, we just like to cruise, and sometimes that's an easy one to do in the summertime, and you just go. It's not like we do excursions every time. We just get off and walk around, and it's just fun being on the boat. Uh-huh. Actually, we just booked another one when we got back from this one.
And what is it?
We're just going to do the California coast, San Francisco, Santa Barbara, LA, San Diego, Ensenada, then back to San Francisco.
How many days is that?
7.
Okay, so tell us about your 11-dayer. Because do you guys do this every Christmas because it's Pat's birthday?
No, and we will never do it over a holiday again.
Oh, was it?
It was crowded. There were a lot of kids.
Oh, like on the boat?
On the boat, which Princess usually don't get a lot of kids, but because it was a holiday, you did. We were supposed to we went out of Galveston. I'll never go out of Galveston again. That was kind of a pain in the tush. because we had to fly into Houston, then get transportation down to Galveston. You had to stay in a hotel overnight. It was just kind of a pain, but we were supposed to go to the Cayman Islands, but the water was too rough and we were supposed to tender in. Well, the water was too rough, so we couldn't do that. So we went to Jamaica, Belize, Roatan, Honduras, Costa Maya, and Cozumel.
What was your favorite stop?
Roatan,
Where's that?
Honduras.
What'd you like about it?
Well, when I think of Honduras, I think of a pretty poor country. But on Roatan, there's an area that's got beautiful houses. They had a beautiful golf course. Hardly anyone was out on it. I mean, we had to get permission to even drive through the gate. We just said we wanted to go see the golf course, and he let us go up there. But it was beautiful.
Now, 11 days without playing golf. How was your first round out there?
Well, I had to play Monday. I got back Sunday afternoon, and I had to play Monday in a pro lady out at Seville.
Oh, yeah. Tell us about that. I saw it on...
Well, there were a lot of teams there. I was kind of surprised. There were a lot of good players that were playing with their pros and stuff. And, I hit some good shots. I hit some bad shots. That's just normal.
Yeah. Peggy, did you play in it?
No.
No?
It's a PGA. It was the Southwest section of the PGA.
Oh, okay. Okay. Interesting.
But Marcy was there, Sammy Postillion, Brenda Williams, Sandy Little, Leanne Finger played with Brenda Williams from Desert Mountain.
Fantastic. What was the format?
Shamble. We both hit our drives. You pick the best drive, and then we play our ball in from.
That's fun. Well, Peggy is here today because she is going to share things she wishes her students understood when it comes to golf instruction and just golf in general. Because, we can get frustrated out there.
Well, so it's not a game of perfect. It's a game of managing your misses. So we're always going to have good shots, bad shots, and in between. Sometimes you're going to hit a great shot that ends up bad and a bad shot that goes in the hole. It's a weird game. Depending on their level, is that they need to have goals and expectations. With new golfers, really letting them know the first 2 years of the game is probably your hardest.
So you think that? Because I find that they love the sport so much in those first 2 years that they're like on a pink cloud.
As long as they're not trying to keep score and track it. They're getting used to it, but it's frustrating because you go out and you hit a really good shot. You don't understand it enough on why. So you think, oh, I've got it. Well, golf doesn't work that way. We kind of get it, lose it, and then we finally get it.
Lose it.
And then we lose it again,
Lose it.
And we learn more by screwing it up and then doing it right, and that through life. So is being honest with them and letting them, I don't care with the new golfer is they're learning to hit the ball at the low point of the arc, which is the only sport that we have loft on the equipment, balls on the ground, that we don't have to create it. I don't care if the first 2 months they tee it up all the way to the green. Get used to having the tee fly. Get used to feeling the sole of the club hit the ground.
Did you notice
have confidence?
Did you notice how she said hit at the bottom of the arc and not on the upswing? Oh, okay, I just thought I'd bring that up.
Trust me. I am in such a flipping
Funk.
I am in a flipping funk.
Well, we need to go hit balls and let's see what's going on. And a lot of times it has to do with balance. We get tension. So now we start trying to make it happen. The arms get a little quick. And when that happens, if you're a right-handed player and most of your weight's still on your right side before impact, your lead side's going up. So even though all your intention is to keep the club going low, physics and balance, you're coming up out of it, and then we catch it.
Oh, yeah.
A little low
that's
on the face
exactly what I'm doing right now. And for the listener that might not know, I wasn't just saying flipping funk like I was trying to not swear. Flipping is actually kind of, how would you explain flipping, Peggy?
Are you talking flipping the wrist? Like your wrists are getting, not flipping as an adjective, but this is, you feel the club, you're trying to help it up. You're getting too handsy. I have people do left hand only drills, right hand only drills, little ones to get the feeling back. And it's more of a trust. We get into these little weird deals because we lose our confidence. We start doubting ourselves. So if you set up to a shot with fear, you've already missed it. That's why I like what Lynn and Pia and the girls do over at Vision 54, that think box, play box, memory box. There's a lot of good that goes in that. So when you're in the play box, you got to be confident and you've got to realize that you're human. You're going to miss shots. So I use two things that I like. One is Gene Sarazen used to say, I know I'm going to hit 7 shots around I don't like. So when one of them shows up, okay, there was one. He tried to have less than 7. It's going to happen. There's a 20-60-20 rule. 20% of the shots we hit are, oh, man, that's great. I got it. That's awesome, blah, blah, blah. 60% are kind of in the middle. They ain't great. They're not bad, but they play all day long. 20% are junk. And most time the junk, we made a wrong decision or we're trying to hit a shot that we bit off too much. Maybe you could hit it 20 years ago, and as we age out, which Kim's watched me play, I used to be a really good player, and now I'm mediocre. I don't work at it. I can't hit it. So you had to learn to trust. So you got to make the smart shot.
Yeah.
And then learn how to manage it. It's a game over 18 holes. It's not over one. You hit a bad shot, the game's not over.
So what you said earlier, because Kim, I want you to give your feedback on this, is that you learn the most from your bad shots than your good shots. And I would say you learn the most out of your losses than your wins. When I say that, what do you think of? Like, what event in particular do you think of, Kim?
Losses.
Maybe even someone recently, even if you can. Like, what's the last event that you lost and you learned the most at? I love this because she doesn't like talking about her losses.
And while she's thinking of it, sometimes we finish second. Okay, so did we lose? Sometimes we played great golf and somebody else played better. And then those are easier to swallow than if I 3-putt 2 out of the last 3 coming in or
then throwing it away.
Yeah, so it's tough because you can win sometimes.
Well, my last loss was to Lee in the state match play. And I don't know if I really learned anything from that. But let's even go back to the senior am where I lost my first match.
Yeah.
Well, what did I learn from that? Well, 5 days was too much for me after being injured and living on drugs for 5 days.
Like too many pain meds to get you through all those golf swings. So if you went back, how would you have done it differently?
I couldn't have because I was lucky I even got to play.
Yeah, don't have a car wreck. I mean,
Yeah, don't have a car wreck.
Oh, yes, I forgot about the car wreck, too.
It was an accident.
Yeah.
That's why they're accidents.
Yeah. But even so, even in a healthy state, no car wreck, do you think you had to play 2 full 18-hole practice rounds on your home course?
No, and usually I don't. The reason I did this time is because I screwed up getting the practice round tee times, and I had invited 2 people to play. Well, I didn't get them in the first round, so I had to play the second round with them. And
Yeah. You know, you had to be a good host.
I usually don't play. I'll play 18 holes and then maybe 9 holes the second day. But I also wanted to see, too, if I could even continue to do it. So.
Yeah. Peggy, another thing that you just mentioned was how, when you get older, things change. Things aren't the same. What's your advice for a golfer that is, things are changing? So
number 1, listen to your body. Don't wait too late. I had a knee replacement, and by the time I went to the doctor, it needed to come out then.
Yeah.
Trust it, we do get older, and I use the analogy a lot because people go, I don't hit it as far as I once did. And I'm like, hey, I'm there. I mean, it's sad. But pick up a ball and throw it. And notice you don't throw a ball as far as you once did. So that kind of goes, oh, yeah, this engine's older. It's not going to run 120 anymore. So do the best with what you have. I'll go off on a tangent. A pet peeve for me is I love the play it forward aspect. So if you're a guy and you once tipped it out, as you get older, you go up, 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 up till you're on the forward tees. Where do women go when you're already there?
Yeah.
So the whole formula out there, it used to be off a driver. Now it's off a 7-iron. If you hit a 7-iron 100 yards, here's a yardage you should play. If you hit it 80, it should be shorter. You can always shorten a golf course and have it rated, and you don't have to build fancy tees. but you'd have more women that would keep playing the game because a lot of them, when they play, they're playing to a par 90 because it takes them 4 to get on a par 4. You know, so get it to where you keep people playing. Or if you got injured or you had something happen, you had a stroke, whatever, you can't perform at a level you once did. But if you could go play this course at 4,000 yards and you're still having fun and you're making pars and a birdie every now and then, you're going to come play more golf, you're going to play longer, and you're going to have more fun.
Yeah.
That's interesting. At Apache Wells, they have these scrambles for the holidays, you know, like a Labor Day scramble and stuff. And it's interesting because the men over a certain age get to play a set of tees up. But the women, they don't let the women go up to the next set of tees. They play the red tees when we have a set of green tees. And we find that interesting because there's a couple women, I mean, that are like in their 80s. They can't even reach the par 3s with their driver.
Yeah.
And they won't let them go up, but they'll let the older men move up.
Yeah, so you've just got to keep bringing it up. So one of the deals we did at Anchorage was after the USGA Senior Women's AM event. The front nine, now all our green tees, they built tee boxes. I mean, they're truly built. They're getting rated this summer. And so it's for anybody. It's not a junior tee. It's not a beginner tee.
It's for anyone.
It's where this is, you know, if I went skiing, I'm going to live on a bunny hill. Because if I go up higher, I'm going to get hurt.
No,
People
I
can
do the
have
same
fun.
thing. When I go skiing, I want a nice little, not a steep, like green dot. Isn't green dots like the easiest?
The easiest are green, the black are the hardest.
Oh, yeah. No, I want to stay only on leisurely green dot, like trails.
I want the hot tub, and I'll just do.
And
I'll
not hot
cook-
chocolate.
Yeah, the hot tub.
Hey, between golf and skiing, they're both too expensive, so I can only do one. Plus, my body wouldn't allow me to go skiing right now.
You did used to ski, though.
I did.
Yeah.
Being from Colorado.
As a kid, I raced and, but kids have, when you're younger, you have no fear.
Yeah.
It's when you get older. And back to when she said about fear, you see that a lot in the, say 15 handicaps and higher. When you and I get to a hole that's got a lake that we have to hit over or a bunker, it doesn't really come into our mind, but it does theirs. And so that puts more pressure on them now. Oh, I got to get, whereas we don't think about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think that's why being able to take players out on the course helps. You got to do it late in the day if it's here or Anchorage. At Portobello, we do a deal at 4 o'clock on Wednesdays and Thursdays. And so the other day we were working on 50 yards and in. So we were working on little high flighted shots into the green, close, and then up to 50 yards out. And then they had women's inner club. So it took them 4.5 hours to play because in a frost delay. So we didn't get out on course to 5:20, but we were out there to dark. But being able just to go out and be on a hole and hit those shots and then put them in the rough, put them in different situations and talk about what club are you going to use?
Course management.
Yeah. Or, you don't go at the pin from this angle. And and sometimes it's like, well, really, I always think I had to go here. And I'm like, no. If you've got fear, go around the water. Go left of a bunker. I mean.
Yeah. So you got to learn how to play a hole.
Yeah.
Like how to actually play the game on a hole and know what your game is capable of.
And this way they're getting confidence because they're hitting 3 balls. Well, 1 out of 3 is going to be decent. Sometimes 2, sometimes all 3. But now, oh yeah, I can do that. It's just getting to, I can, or let's find a different way.
Yeah. So another thing that you wished your students understood was club face control at impact. And I've said this before in the podcast. Club face control seems almost overwhelming to me. And I'm a pretty good golfer, and it just seems almost out of my control.
So number one, for me, the first thing I look at anybody is how their hands are on the club.
Okay.
And they need to match who they are because our hands hinge different ways. So there's not just toe up. Some people take it back, what we used to call hooded. It depends on how your trail arm moves. And that you were born that way. You're not going to change it. if your hands aren't on the club properly, you're out of control to start with. It's like the front end of alignment on your car. It may drive, but it's not going to drive very well. So when we get the joints lined up properly, now I can start to use the tool. Having the concept that you don't go under the ball. Everybody goes, you know what? I ask all new students, how do you see the ball going up in the air half the time? Well, I got to get under it. So I have an old Titleist fitting board that's plastic and clear. I throw a ball on top of it. I catch it on downswing. It goes up. And I said, okay, if it was about going under, how could I hit that shot? Because you can't go under and through.
Yeah.
And then you let them swing. And I like it because it's firm. They hear it. They feel it. They start to get the concept. So it's weird because we're actually covering the ball as we come down. So if you were playing tennis, you'd be hitting the ball into the ground in front of you and it would be hopping over the net. Mm-hmm. Where we see it flying and want to open it, now the leading edge comes up, you're hitting half the ball. Or people that go, well, I hit all my irons the same distance. Well, because you're sculling them all. It doesn't matter. You're not finding the loft. So
Those are my best misses.
And hey, thin to win.
Thin to win.
And straight.
But when they get the understanding and feel like if you were going to strike a match, the match tip has to brush the strike pad. Mm-hmm. So if I'm swinging a club and my match tip is the sole of the club, it never gets to the ground, I'm never going to have fire.
Yeah.
So I'm not chopping at it, but I want to bruise the ground. I want to tear it up because grass will grow back.
I know. It reminds me of what Kim just said. Say it.
I had a lady that I taught in Chicago, and I could never get her to take a divot. And it's because she was a gardener and stuff, and she didn't want to ruin the grass. And I kept telling her, the grass grows back. And she would never get that concept.
Well, you know what? Wait, let's pause for a second because you guys might know the answer to this. Because I think about it periodically when I'm walking the course. How long does it take for a divot to grow back in?
It depends on the time of year and the type of grass you're using.
So let's just give an estimate. I'm just curious.
Probably a week or two. I mean, and it depends because, like, it gets confusing down here when we're playing during the summer and we're hitting off of Bermuda. If you take a divot, you can put it back and it's going to grow back. During the winter, we're on winter rye. When you go to Anchorage, where you have a rye bluegrass mix, that you have to put the sand and seed mix back in because if you put your divot in, that grass will not reseed it and it just dies. So you just have a brown spot.
Mm-hmm. Oh, just a week.
I would have said probably a couple weeks, but it's hard to know.
A week or two.
Yeah, it seems like if it was a couple weeks, then you'd just see divots all over the place. But, I mean, I guess you do.
You do see divots a lot.
And people need to learn to repair ball marks. It's horrible now. To use the sand mix.
Yeah.
Going off tangent, when I die, I'm going to be cremated. It's in my will. I want to be putting the divot mix bottles and somebody's just going to be pouring a little Peggy out here and there.
Gosh,
I always used to say...
That is amazing. Stop.
I always used to say that I wanted
idea.
my ashes to go in to where my uncle would take a divot, be in his divot when he swung, but...
Oh my God, I love that.
I always used to say that too, that I wanted to be in my
the
ashes
divot
spread
container.
on the golf course. Not in a container, just spread on the golf course.
And I think since COVID, you have these new golfers out there. A lot of them are male. I'm not picking on guys because women can do it too. They never took lessons. They just showed up and they're playing. They don't know rules. They don't know etiquette. They don't know pace of play. And then it bogs everything down. And if the player's assistant or the marshal or whatever they're calling, go to talk to them, they get all belligerent. And it's like, there's rules.
Yeah.
I mean, there's etiquette. It's
shocking to me how people are still not raking bunkers. I mean, just blatantly not raking.
Yeah, and there's nothing worse than getting in a footprint.
Oh, God.
Oh, God.
No, the worst. Okay, how about this one? The importance of goal setting. Short term or long term, what do you have to say about goal setting for golfers?
Well, you need to have goals, especially as a new player. Your goal may be I don't have to think about setup, I use analogies like learning to drive a stick. When I learned to drive a stick, it was hard because you overthink it and you grind it. And I had to do it in a Kmart parking lot. And then you had to go drive in Houston. Now you just do it, but it's a process. So setting little goals. Okay, my goal this week is we're comfortable with grip setup posture. You're making tees fly. You're a better player. Maybe your handicap's an 18 and you want to be a 12. Well, let's set a goal. Let's get to 15 first. Mm-hmm. Now, how do we get, and really track, where's your weakest area on the course? So everybody likes to go to the range and hit their favorite shots. And you don't want to work on the ones you struggle with. Well, that's where you need to put more time in. So the only way I can hit a long-term goal is I need to have a lot of short-term goals to help me get there.
Mm-hmm. Kim, what do you think? What would you think is your weakest part of your game?
Well, I can tell you what everybody else would say. Probably my putting.
Okay, well, what
but
would you say?
sometimes it's good, and sometimes sometimes it's like I can't miss.
Yeah.
And other times it's like my best is probably my driver.
Mm-hmm. So when you're having a tough putting day.
You already know the answer to this.
Well, no. Do you?
I go home.
Do you just leave?
I don't practice.
Well, no, but I'm saying do you talk yourself into it sometimes too? Like, okay, you'll miss a short 3-footer on hole 1 or 2. And then are you able to let that go? Or do you think that you just make it worse by grinding on it?
I would say sometimes I make it worse. Sometimes I just let it go. Mm-hmm. Sometimes what I'll do if I'm really putting poorly is I'll just change my putting grip in the middle of the round.
Yeah. Really? What will you go to?
Well, I overlap. No, I do this right now. And if I'm not good, then I'll just go to my regular grip that I use on my other clubs and putt.
I've been trying left hand low lately.
I've gone where I've done left hand low inside of 15 feet. One year in the Colorado Women's Open, I finished second. I carried 2 putters. I had a long putter and a normal one. And so for long putts, I used the short one for feel because you're just trying to get it up there. Mm-hmm. And then on the shorter ones, I went with the long and I pulled the 4-iron out or something.
Okay, so you went with 2 putters in your bag, and in order to have 14 clubs in there, you took your 4-iron out?
Yeah, because I could hood a 5-iron or open up a 3-iron. It was before hybrids. That's how far back it went.
So I'm a claw grip putter. And so I'm testing out left hand low because I'm feeling still a little wristy. Do you think a claw grip and left hand low serve the same purpose as far as taking your hands out of the stroke?
So interestingly, I was talking to another LPGA teaching pro, and she's qualified for 2 of the senior women's opens, Loretta Young. And she was talking about, she had the yips. So she went and saw this guy, and I can't tell you his name, in Florida. And basically what he told her, if you set up and you let your left hand kind of drop, so we go kind of into ulnar deviation here, and you set it there, you can't yip it. So sometimes when we go left hand low, it does this. So the guy that came up with this, his dad had a stroke or Parkinson's or something and had the shakes.
Let me take a picture.
Do that.
Here, show us again. Sorry for people that are listening. I'm doing this on video so that you can watch it. So
you basically just, your hand, instead of being here where it can move, like we do in a golf swing, you just set it down. So see how this is raised.
Does that make the grip feel different though? Or
everybody's different. So it's going to, but it stabilizes it. So this isn't wonky.
It's almost like putting a stick up your arm to where you can't.
But it's just, if you drop it down.
It's like locking it in place.
And you watch tour pros, they're there a lot. You see a lot of these left hands. So it doesn't matter if you're right hand on top, if you're left hand low.
Or right hand
low.
It
just stays there. And I mean, I like the claw because you can't flip. I mean, if I could have putted, I could have played. That was my big deal to have LASIK.
If I could have practiced, I maybe could have played.
Well, for all people listening, I did take a video of that, so that will be on social media. That was very interesting because, it's funny with putting. It happened to me, I'd say 4 years ago, where just all of a sudden, because I had a normal kind of right hand low grip, and all of a sudden I start getting the yips with those short putts.
But part of that comes here because we lose the confidence. So then we go to help it. Mm-hmm. So great putting story. Sandra Palmer won 2 U.S. Opens.
Yep.
And Harvey Pinnock was her coach. So she's playing a practice round and the greens are so fast, she just doesn't know what to do. So she calls Harvey up and she thinks he's going to go, well, hit it on the toe or grip down. And all he said was, Sandra, darling, don't hit it as hard. So that changed the whole pace. She went out, won her second Open. Mm-hmm. And it was just like, well, brilliant. So a lot of times it's the pace. When we get yippy, we get fast. Where we need to slow down, it just needs to be tick-tock. If it's a 30-footer or a 3-footer, it's in that same pace and time. The putter head's just moving differently.
This is a kind of off-topic question, but Kim, when you go play a round, and I guess it could be any round, but I'm kind of thinking a tournament round, and you make 2 long putts in the first couple holes, do you think to yourself, oh, I'm going low today? Like when you make some of those bombs right off in the beginning, does that click into place like, oh, okay, I'm going low today?
Not necessarily
can
that
just
I'm going
feel it.
low, but that I'm going to have a pretty good putting day.
Yeah.
But typically I don't make bombs.
Oh, God. Yes, you do. Stop
You
it.
hit it close enough, they're not bombs.
Good point.
Actually,
Touche.
I have been making some longer putts lately when I've been out playing for fun and stuff. And Pat's looking at me like, where does that come from? Because I typically don't make a lot of long putts, but I have been making more. But
Okay. All right. Well, we have opening day coming up soon where Kim and I are going to be partners. We're joining forces again. Believe it or not, we do join forces on the podcast a lot and other things, but we have not been partners
since
2013.
Well, whenever you had me over as your guest at the member guest at Arizona.
Yeah, I'm going to show that picture in a social media video of some sort because I was probably, I had moved to Phoenix. It was probably less than 2 years in. And I asked Kim to come be my partner at the Club Invitational, our big women's tournament of the year. And I remember Margie coming up to me and saying, gosh, I see you brought a ringer. And I was a 10 handicap. Kim was a 0. So it worked out perfectly. Match play.
It did for that format.
Yep. And we won the entire thing. And
shootout and everything.
I actually just hung up that flag, the trophy that we got, which was a flag framed with everyone's signature on it, which I still think is a great trophy to keep in mind.
How many trophy rooms do you have, Kim?
Just one because I've been getting rid of them.
Have you?
She has been.
I mean,
Yes.
It's like, wow.
No, so she's also been shedding some other things. So she gave me a bunch of cups lately, like almost
Tervis tumblers.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So she gave me a ton of them. And so we have these cups that I use daily. By the way, I want you to know that I use them a ton because for some reason, I love to drink out of a plastic cup rather than a glass cup. I don't know what that is. But so I've been drinking out of these tumblers and they'll be like, Women's U.S. Open, Women's Senior Am. Like, they're all these amazing tournaments that she got these tumblers at. I'm enjoying them, Kim.
I'm glad you are, because we have millions of them.
Yeah. Okay, back to the topic. So this is a good one, Peggy. What do you wish all your students understood about lowering their scores? What is the quickest way to do it?
50 yards and in.
So you say 50 yards, not 100 yards. You really believe
Well, because in Arizona, most of my clients are 55 and older. Mm-hmm. Okay, so 50 yards and in, if I'm working with a state champion in Alaska and he's male, that becomes 125 yards and in. But it's basically, a lot of times that might be a full wedge. But to start, if I can get 50 yards and in, and you're proficient there, you're going to lower your scores. How do you lower your putting? You hit it closer to the hole.
Yeah.
I mean, so you work on chipping, and if you miss a green, you don't just walk up with a sand wedge. If I miss a green, I'm walking up with 3 or 4 clubs in my hand because I don't know what my shot is until I get there, unless I'm walking and pushing or carrying.
Which is a good point to make when you're practicing your chipping. Use multiple clubs. Don't just, I mean, we all have a favorite. Kim, what's your favorite club to chip with?
Well, to be honest with you, I only usually chip with one club, and that's my lob wedge, my 60.
Yep. And I'd say 60 is my favorite too, but I am practicing more and more with my 56 also and actually using it in play. And I've been chipping it close. So
so depending on where the hole is on the green, sometimes an 8-iron, an 8 or 9-iron, because to hit your spot, if my spot's closer to me, it's easier to hit that spot. I loved my 60. I'm on a 58 now because I've lost yardage, but it still feels like distance-wise my 60. And you practiced with it. You used it enough that you knew you were hooding this one down. Like you were de-lofting it. You were adding.
You can do different things with your 60.
Yeah.
Right. But you could take your A wedge, your 50 degree, and do the same thing and then it took the guesswork out. In a hybrid, geez, you get off hard pan or you got crappy lies or it's wet or you've got a 60, 70 footer on the green, it's slow, putt with your hybrid because you apply that feel to the stroke. It rolls out. There's not a picture. I just want to get something inside of 5-6 feet where I know I've got a makeable putt. And the reason I like 50 yards and in, these clubs fly in the air. So to make the ball fly in the air, what do you have to do? You have to understand where the low point is. So the more I get players working with what feels like a half swing, a 3/4 swing, and they start finding the center of the club head, well, guess what? That transfers into their 7-iron on a full swing, on a hybrid. So a lot of times I'm tricking you into working on full swing aspects, working on smaller ones. Yeah, and they're like, well, I'm playing better. And, everybody's like, oh, I'm shocked. I'm in a different, they move me down a flight or, I'm playing better. And I'm like, well, of course, you're putting in the time.
Yeah.
And I think that's it. People just don't practice their short game.
Yeah.
They just want to work on hitting it further. I just want to go out there and hit it further.
Is that what most of your clients say when they show up?
And it's like, okay, how far do you hit it? The average women's drive, if you took everybody, tour players to beginners, is 135 yards. I mean, it's sad. But for some people, 135 to 150, it's all they got. They've hit it as solid as if you hit it 240.
Let's even increase that a little bit. If you are hitting the ball 200 yards, you're doing pretty good.
You're doing
driver.
real good.
Yeah.
And you can play. Yeah.
Yeah. So don't even worry about hitting it further.
So it's all about getting the ball in the hole as fast as you can. So you can hit it a long way and it takes you 4 or 5 to get it in the hole versus, the people say, oh, I play with this little old lady and she just dinks it down. She gets inside 50 yards. She's on the green.
We've all played with those.
Either one putts or 2 putts.
Yeah.
Make it be challenging. And, how you practice is important. Practice doesn't mean I go to the range and hit a bucket of balls. If I just go hit balls, that's exercise. You have to have a purpose. Am I working on my alignment or making the ball end up in this area? Am I working on today that 80% of my balls are flying nicely? I mean, have different play games and don't pick one target. Because we never have the same shot.
Yeah.
Make it fun.
Yeah, that's why I put my practice balls into little piles of 5 so that I can.
That's perfect.
That makes me not hit the same shot more than 5 times in a row.
Right.
It forces me to switch it up.
Change it up. But play games, I tell people, come out and you and a buddy, you go to different spots and you chip on and you put it out and you're playing a little chipping match. So you're working on how to get it done when it counts. Because everybody's out there, oh, I miss these little putts, but I didn't try. Well, yeah, you did try. You missed it.
That's called a defense mechanism.
But sometimes we hit really
Coping
good
mechanism.
putts and we read it wrong.
Well, sometimes we do just go up and don't set up to it. And
yeah, but by saying out loud, like, oh, I wasn't really trying, that makes you probably feel better about missing that short putt.
You gave yourself permission to fail,
No, the eye roll that Kim just gave me, it hit the back of the wall.
I did not.
Okay, Peggy, how about this one? I love this one. How to practice in between golf rounds. And How do you feel about hitting balls before a golf round? Like, do you think that's practice? Do you think that someone can, instead of practicing in between rounds, show up an hour before their round and quote unquote practice then?
So hitting balls before a round is warm up. I mean, you look at tour players. If their coaches come, they're there on Monday and Tuesday and they're out of there. You've got to be prepared to play when the bell rings. So when I go out, if you're practicing something on your swing before your first round, you're into swing mechanics and not playing the game. So you have to. My dad was a golf pro, and he told me you got to play with what you brought that day. If you're out there on the range and you're hitting it dead right, then you better be aiming left off the first tee. And you play it and you fix it later.
Yeah.
When I played professionally, the days that I went out and I hit it so good on the range, I did not play my best rounds. The days I went out and I'm skanking it all over and I'm thinking, oh, geez, this is going to be long. Or the days I went out and I played. My lowest scoring days weren't my best ball striking days. It was the days that the hole was so big it got in the way. I had great 16. I could hit 16 greens and shoot 75.
Kim, what does your warm up before the round look like? Like, what's your intention?
Just to loosen up.
Yeah. Does it change when it's really cold out to really warm? Do you think you spend more time in warm up when it's cold?
No, because it's cold. I hit 5 or 6 balls, 7 balls with my wedge, and I hit some 7-irons, and that's typically about it.
And not your driver?
Now, I did hit my driver Monday just because I hadn't played in 11 days, and I just hit a couple drives. But
and then do you go putt?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need to putt because every green's going to be different.
And the same green can even be different between a day or two.
My first putts are always to edges to work on feel and not see it going in. Because if I start little and I miss 2 or 3, then
that's interesting. Explain that. Explain that more in depth about what do you mean by hitting it to the edges?
So, you pick a 40-foot putt and you hit it from one edge of the putting green to the other. So you're not trying to go to a small hole. You're going to an area. Because most of the putts we make, it doesn't matter if you're a tour player or a new golfer, or inside 6 feet. So you've got to be able, if you're 50 feet, you need to be able to get it close enough that you're not having to grind out making a 6-footer for par. So you're working on the pace. Dick Harmon shared this story with me years ago. He said Ben Crenshaw would go on the putting green. He'd find the longest putt he could to a hole, and he'd make sure he could get it down in 2 or less. Because then he knew if he could 2-putt from there, everything else was easier. And when you play his courses, look how big the greens are and how much movement. I hated it. I'd rather be little.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's wrap up with this then. Things you wish your students understood. How about to not beat yourself up on the course?
Well, yeah. So I talked to a student last week. If you play Monopoly, I mean, we're all competitive. And some of us want to play competitive at a high level, and others were competitive by nature, and others want to be out there for fun. So if you're playing Monopoly or you're playing gin or whatever, are you beating yourself up when you lose? Most time not. Yeah, Kim probably, Betsy King, she's there for blood. But it's a game. So when you get so upset on how you play out there playing a game, what are you doing in the rest of your life? I mean, so we're human. We make mistakes. So laugh at yourself. You didn't purposely hit it in the water.
Yeah.
It happened.
It's tough.
So and especially with new golfers, most of your shots aren't going to be great.
Yeah.
You're learning to walk. I mean, when we learned to walk, what'd we do? We rolled around on the floor. We learned how to sit up. We learned to pull up. We took a step or two. We fell a lot. We don't remember that, but it was all a process. So in golf, we're on this journey, and nobody shows up at the golf course and they're good.
Yeah. And I also want to put the analogy out there of maybe you've been playing for a handful of years, but you just start playing tournaments. When you go out there for your first tournament round, it's probably won't be as you think it's going to go. Like I would imagine that the scores might be a tad higher and you're going to feel that under pressure feeling.
But that's how you get good. You
Exactly.
keep putting yourself in these pressure areas. And Nicholas made a comment. He goes, if you don't get butterflies on the first hole, the game doesn't mean enough to you.
Yeah.
He says, so when I played competitively, on the first tee, I was ready. After I hit the ball, walking from the tee box to my drive, that's when I'd get butterflies because now the game started.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's to control it. The year that Sherry Turner was the lead money winner, Sherry could beat herself up like nobody else out there. And she had such a good game, but she would get down. She would put so much pressure on herself. So the girl that she had as a caddy, they came up with the game. So when they went to play, if she hit a great shot or, she missed a shot and had good attitude, she got like a gold star. And if she got all crappy and moody and, went in a funk, she got a black one. So the whole deal was you were trying to get as many gold stars. You're still playing the game, but a different way. Then they came up with you're playing 18 holes. Par or better every hole, you win. So you go out, and so that's all you were trying to do. One hole at a time. You add it up at the end. So what? We're going to have a bad hole. If you have a bad hole, we hope, for a better player, it's not more than a bogey. You start putting doubles, triples, and others, and the score adds up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Kim, what are your thoughts about not beating yourself up? Have you gotten better about it?
I think so. I'm still kind of a perfectionist. I hate when you'll say, like the other day in this pro lady I'm trying to think what hole it must have been like the 7th hole. It's a par 3 or the 8th hole, par 3. My pro hits a great shot up there. So I hit it thin. It rolls. It rolls closer to the pin than his. And it's like, well, I hit that really shitty, but look how it turned out.
With its skank work.
Yeah.
I'm getting better just because, for one, I think I'm getting older and realize that, it's just not going to happen. And I've also learned, I play with people that they make up their own rules. They throw balls down all the time. And I used to think to myself, well, their handicap's not legitimate. And I finally gotten to the point where it's like, you know what? They're out there. They're playing. They're having fun. I know they're not going to go play in any tournaments where they need a legitimate handicap. So who gives a shit?
Yeah. Yeah.
They're out there. Yeah. That's the most important thing is that we're out there.
Yeah. And it goes back to what Peggy talked about in the beginning, which is for you to have fun, if that means to be going up further to shorter tee boxes, do it.
Make your own up.
Sometimes I go back to those further back tee boxes and I'm like, this is no fun.
When we grew up, we played the men's tees or further, and I would play courses in Houston, and they'd go, Missy, you're on the wrong tee. And I'm no, I'm not. We didn't play a tee. You looked at the yardage. I didn't want to play a par 4 over 420. That's par 5 for me now.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And I play where I want to. And, sometimes I'd have a big Hogan staff bag. Like, how many women are running around with that? And the guys are just clueless.
Yeah.
That happened to Sherry Turner and Ellie Gibson at McDowell Mountain one year. And then they just blast it, and the guys, oh.
Well, it's kind of like when I played Pebble Beach, the one and only time. I looked at the scorecard, and I thought, well, I'm not going to play the red tees. I'm going to back up a set. And I told the starter that, and I'm sure he sees it all. Because, all the guys that go play Pebble Beach, they want to play it from the tips and blah, blah, blah. And he's like looking at me like, well, okay, here we go. And I just striped it down the middle, and he's like, you're at the right tee.
Yeah. But just don't judge because you don't know.
Yeah. Well, Peggy, thank you for being on. You're a teaching professional. How long have you been teaching?
Be 43 years this May, so I must love it because I'm still going at it.
And that's my question to you is why do you love teaching so much? What does it bring to your life?
It's the satisfaction of sharing this game with golfers at all levels. I miss playing and I need to practice more, but finding that time, I kind of put everybody else first.
Yeah.
It's been good. My dad was a golf pro, and growing up, I would why him all the time. I'm analytical. Well, why? Why do I need to do this? Why are we making the change? And he always said, you're going to be a better teacher than a player. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm going to be a world beater. Because tee to green at one time, I could beat pretty much everybody in the world, but you get me on the green and the world beat me. And finally, after chasing it for about 8 years, it was like, I get more enjoyment out of a new golfer getting the ball to fly. Somebody breaking 70 for the first time, that there's more satisfaction and it's fun. And I think the reason I keep doing it, everybody's different every day. So when I'm working with somebody, we're not doing the same thing. I couldn't teach second grade, same thing over and over. Just shoot me. With my job, when I do my job right, I don't see you very often because you're playing. Then there's other people coming in. I see you if the wheels are coming off. Or it's frustrating. Sometimes I know you could be at 2 levels more, but you're really happy doing this. Golf's one thing that you do. You have other hobbies and interests, and maybe shooting 95 and playing in whatever flight that is good. You don't want to work any harder, then that's great. It's everybody's journey.
Yeah. I think that's the difference between Peggy and I. I wanted to play. I mean, I enjoyed teaching, and I enjoyed teaching a new golfer, but my mind is not very analytical. And so if I had a really good player, I had trouble maybe spotting what was going on, whereas she was more analytical. So that's why I gave up teaching, because I wanted to play and compete.
Yeah,
and I still played. That. I played pretty hard competitively to 40-41. I still qualified and played in the LPGA championship. I played 5 majors as a teaching pro, which means I played 10 rounds because I never made a cut. And then it just got, I think when I moved out here and then the knees started going and you didn't have access to a range, you just kind of got away from it. And I want to compete, so that's why I don't want to go tee it up like the Senior Open that's coming up, tied in with the Maryland Smith Pro-Am. That'd be great, but it's like, crap, who am I going to ask? Because it's going to be hit and drag Peggy. I'll play the Pro-Am, but I'm prideful.
Yeah.
I think that's how it is with me. It's hit and drag Kim. Shelly's going to be dragging me.
Oh, stop it.
But they're doing something different this year in that every team gets paid.
Well, I know. Wow. There's like $100,000 purse.
So if you finish,
that's fantastic.
From 23rd to 44, because they're only taking 44 teams, you're assured $500. Your team is.
Yeah.
So that means you get half your entry fee back, because the entry went from 300 to 500.
Well, that's great.
But like Shelly and I just missed the money last year.
Yeah, so you never know.
So they only paid like 10 spots. So 12 spots is like, I think the 12 spots, maybe $1,200, $1,300, $1,400.
Yeah, you've got.
So we have a chance to win some merchandise.
It'll be fun. Well, Peggy, I got to have you back on the podcast eventually, but I'm thinking I need to come up to Alaska. Well, I think the next interview needs to be in Alaska. I have never been there.
Well, yeah, and you need to bring a group up. And it's like when Kim came up, when you were talking about boats.
Yeah.
I've got 2 cars. One of them's called the Tuna Boat. It's a 95 Volvo station wagon. They took it to Seward. It went up.
We drove everywhere. That thing drove so good.
Yes.
Granted, it's a little trashed on the inside and stuff.
Well, it's a 95.
But
send me a picture.
I have one.
Yeah,
okay,
the Tuna Boat.
let me see it.
It rides low in the water.
Yeah.
But it worked great.
Well, okay, maybe we got to do a girls' golf trip to Alaska. What are you guys thinking? What are the listeners thinking? I need to know. But Kim,
you have to do it in probably July.
June, July, or August.
Okay.
September's pretty. It can get cold, but the color change is amazing.
Yeah.
The courses are probably in the best shape, and then you got to put them to bed.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Kim, thank you for joining us again. Let's have your break not be as long next time. Thank you very much. And Peggy, thanks for being here today.
Thanks for having me.